My name is David Bishop, and this is lab number 6. Today's date is December 14th at 7:24 p.m. Obviously, I know this lab was due back in November, but I was obviously in Oklahoma City at the time, so I didn't have access to my lab. And I am now trying to get this done prior to the semester. So, with that aside, I have actually set up the first part, which the idea of this lab is to use our counter, or basically our up and down counter over here, to drive a pulse to this chip, which in turn is going to send an output to our display here to actually show that the number is counting up from 0 to 9, and then it should stop. I did have a little bit of issues with this part of the lab, simply because of the fact that both of my Man 74 displays here are actually not working. So even when I turn it on without these LEDs on the side, the only two parts that light up is here and here. And in order to verify that the actual signal is being sent to it, I set up these LEDs around it to basically provide the display that this would provide, based off the outputs of A through G here to the inputs of A through G on the actual Man 74 display itself. Also, I did not have a push button switch, so I improvised for the power to the control wire here with this four position switch here, which I've only got position 1 set up to currently. And what should happen ideally is when I set this up and run the lab with my signal generator input that's coming from here, which should be a 1 hertz signal at 5 volts, what should happen is when I switch this switch, it should change and alternate in the opposite angle or the opposite direction of what the lights did initially. So we will be testing that here shortly, and then after we go through part 1, I will be bringing up part 2, which will be using our 555 timer over here, and we will see if we have any luck with that one. I tried to run it the other day and I had the same issue, but again, hopefully now that I have these LEDs attached, it should give us some sort of visual indication of what's actually going on. So with that aside, we're going to go ahead and start the lab. I'm applying the power to it. So as you can see, I haven't done anything with the switch, so right now it should be in the open position. And it is actually alternating through the LEDs. And these LEDs are going to represent different actual outputs from over here. So this should be your A, B, C, D, I believe, and your E, and your F and your G here. And it's going to go through here, and then after I've given it enough time to cycle through, I'm going to go ahead and switch this, and ideally what should happen is it should go in the reverse direction, so we'll see if that actually works. And it looks like it has. It started over here this time, so now it's counting down. Obviously we can't see it on the display, but we do have the LEDs to signify what's actually happening. So that is the part 1 of lab number 6. For part 2 of the lab, we are going to be using a 555 timer to allow the 4029 chip to actually signal the display to actually turn on and off, and it should be controlled by itself internally. However, I did not have much luck with this part of the lab, so this portion was unsuccessful. Now I can get some of the lights to come on, but as far as for the counting, it just doesn't seem to want to count. So I'm not sure what the issues were. I double checked, triple checked even my setup to make sure that it was proper, and it was. So unfortunately, it still didn't work out. There should have been initially, at least based on the calculation and the resistors and components, there should have been about a 9.8 second delay before it to actually kick on. However, for me, this would help if I turned it on. There wasn't really a delay. Well, actually there was, but it was a lot longer than it should have been. So give me a second here while I wait for this to come on. So as you can see, some of the lights will actually light up. This one is kind of dark. However, it's not actually doing the counting action. So I even replaced like I said, replaced the 555 timer with a different one. And I rearranged all the components and redid them just the way they were supposed to, and still had no luck. So unfortunately, part two of this lab, at least for me, was unsuccessful. But at least I was able to get some lights to light up, I suppose. Thank you.